Good morning. It is Monday, May the 23rd. I'm Shane Seeley, and this is the CBC Morning Report. Now, government has announced major plans for heavy investment in local attractions to transform the visitor experience to the island in a major way. That's what we are hearing from the Tourism Minister, Senator Lisa Cummins, who has explained that government's focus will be on just overhauling what is the tourism sector, and she explained the position last night on the People's Business on the topic projections for tourism in 2022 and beyond. And to give an example, she revealed some of the plans for the transformation of Harrison's Cave as one of the island's premier attractions.
We've taken through the new management company a single attraction and converted it into 5 attractions. So rather than going to Harson's Cave for a 45-minute tour or an hour-long tour, you now can have an entire day-long experience in one location. In the center of the island, you have so many emerging attractions that have come about that are specifically focusing on ecotourism. On the north coast of Barbados, some of the most spectacular locations that you could see. And when we launched the summer campaign, the postcard campaign component of that last week, for example, we were simply taking an opportunity for Barbadians and locals equally to frame out some of those iconic experiences. So the Rock at Bashaba, for example, that entire area, we've been talking with the partners who maintain and the bushing and showing up bathroom facilities in our attractions and our restaurants, especially along the coastlines. That simple things like maintaining them to standard first for Barbadians, who are our first tourists, and then of course everyone benefits, including those that visit us.
Meanwhile, there has been a major change in Barbados's protocols, which should encourage more tourists out of the U.S. to come to our shores. The revelation came from UC Skeet. He is the director for the USA, the tourism director for the U.S. Here's what he had to say on the program last night.
So the change in the protocols now clearly states persons who are vaccinated, who are fully vaccinated, are no longer required to take the COVID test for entry into Barbados. And that comes into effect from the 25th of May. Right. Persons who are unvaccinated, however, they still would need a test to enter the island. So it's really and here in the US, a significant part of the US population is already vaccinated. So I think that in itself means that we have a much larger captive audience who will no longer have to consider getting the test prior to travel.
And the tourism director for the U.S. market has announced some more encouraging news for the island's tourism sector as more flights will be flying in from the U.S. market.
From June 1st, we're now going to be having 2 daily services out of JFK, and on Saturdays there will be 3 flights out of JFK. So we're really going to see a ramp up of capacity out of JFK, which certainly will mean more seats for persons to come down to the destination. And already, based on the trends and the pacing that we're seeing, those flights are already doing quite well. Similarly, this is out of Charlotte now. Typically, we would have had a weekly service out to Charlotte on American Airlines. In June, we have 4 flights out of Charlotte, and in July, 3 flights out of Charlotte. So that is something even for summer, where we're seeing that even our airline partners have demonstrated significant confidence in the destination and the destination's ability to perform.
That's UC Skeet, the tourism director for the BTMI in the USA. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we have more COVID updates and then, of course, more reaction to that big announcement about the relaxation of the island's protocols coming out of the U.S. market. And, of course, we'll look at some other international news here on the Morning Report. The Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association is pleased and optimistic about the news that vaccinated travelers will no longer be required to have a pre-arrival test starting on Wednesday. Prime Minister Mia Motley made the announcement during a press briefing yesterday, where she also confirmed the removal of the mask mandate for outdoor spaces. Chairman of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Renee Coppin, says the agency had called for the change to travel protocols regarding testing in a meeting with health officials last month. According to the vast majority of guests to the island who are vaccinated and boosted, well, she's therefore confident that the change will pose a very small risk to locals.
The reality of the direction of COVID management in both our source markets and our competitive set is that most have moved to lifting of entry testing and outdoor mask wearing requirements. Indeed, in many source markets, mask wearing is now a matter of personal choice. This means as we move forward, when a traveller is making a decision on travel, they can choose Barbados with increased confidence. There will no longer be testing requirements which add cost to the trip. This change will reduce risk of cancellation and disruption to travel plans and facilitate a return to a more seamless travel experience. Our knowledge of the science surrounding the spread of COVID points to very little evidence of risk of spread in outdoor and well-ventilated spaces, so that the removal of mask mandates for outdoors also augurs well for the delivery of an improved visitor experience.
The Green Climate Fund continues to support vulnerable households on the island as it assists in boosting water conservation efforts here in Barbados. It is doing so through the Water Sector Resilience Nexus for Sustainability, the WSRNS project, with partners the Barbados Water Authority and the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the 5 Cs. Households with vulnerable people, whether the elderly or those with disabilities, have been prioritized and supplied with personal tanks for water storage. GCF National Project Coordinator at 5 Cs, Dr. Elon Cadogan, says they ensured that the portion of funding was utilized as best as they could. Dr. Cadogan was a guest on CBC TV8's Face It and Fix It program.
We understand that, yes, although the GCF does have an intervention here in Barbados, that it was not possible to reach all the households in Barbados under this grant portion. We understand that, persons are able and free and, to go and purchase a tank. I think the new town and country regulations for houses of a certain square footage, and you have to have some sort of requirement for water storage. So outside of that now, for those persons, then how would we be able to, select persons, or how would an independent consult, because it was done independently, outside of the influence of persons at the 5 Cs at the BWA, to ensure that we had some persons or candidates that were fed through eligibility criteria.
On the international front now, more than 32 tons of baby formula is being brought into the U.S. from a military air base in Germany. A critical shortage is due to a product recall by one of the country's leading baby formula manufacturers, as well as the supply chain issues that they now face.
These U.S. soldiers are loading precious cargo onto a military plane in Germany. 32 tons of baby formula, enough to fill 1.5 million bottles for hungry children back in the U.S.
We're getting to help American citizens who are in need of help, and you can always depend on us when you need us.
President Joe Biden announced the campaign, dubbed Operation Fly Formula, this week. Several flights will take formula manufactured in Europe to America after the U.S. Food and Drug Administration lifted some import restrictions. Biden also invoked the Defense Production Act, allowing the government to more quickly restore formula to store shelves.
And I've directed my team to do everything possible to ensure there's enough safe baby formula and that it's quickly reaching families that need it the most. This is one of my top priorities.
Biden has come under increasing pressure to resolve the country's baby formula shortage, down about 40% from normal supply levels. The problem began with pandemic supply chain issues and grew worse in February when a major formula factory closed due to contamination issues. The FDA says Abbott Nutrition's plant in Michigan is now safe and will resume production soon, but it could be months before its product returns to shelves.
It's been impossible to find.
Kim Anatra is on the last can of formula she has saved for her 5-month-old daughter. Like other parents, she's had to turn to imperfect solutions to keep her baby fed. She's giving her daughter more solid foods, though it's earlier than what the pediatrician had recommended.
The Russian military has declared victory in its mission to take control of the strategic city of Mariupol in eastern Ukraine. After Ukrainian troops surrendered to Russian forces, Russian lawmakers are split on how to deal with them.
These are the last remaining Ukrainian fighters in the Azovstal steel plant. Now they are prisoners of war. They survived Russia's onslaught for more than 2 months in the steel plant. Their future is now unknown. Their surrender brings a much-needed victory for Russian forces in the strategically important port city of Mariupol.
The Minister of Defense has reported to President of Russia on the end of the operation and the complete liberation of the Azovstal industrial complex and of the city of Mariupol from Ukrainian fighters.
The Kremlin says those who've surrendered will be treated in line with international norms. Some Russian lawmakers have demanded they be tried for war crimes, and one said they should face the death penalty. Sergei Shoigu announced his forces alongside Russian-backed separatists will soon claim full control over the Lugansk region in eastern Ukraine, a victory that's long overdue for his forces. Forces the defense minister wants to expand. He revealed plans for 12 more military units to be added to the military districts in western Russia in response to Finland and Sweden applying to join NATO.
That expansion needs more manpower, and the Russian lawmakers may have the solution. The State Duma on Friday said it's considering a bill that would allow Russians over the age of 40 and foreigners over the age of 30 to sign up for the military.
The website of the Russian parliament's lower house, the State Duma, said the move would enable the military to utilize the skills of older professionals familiar with the use of high-precision weapons and military equipment. As what Russia calls its special military operation nears the 3-month mark, there is no indication from either side of an end to the conflict.
Voters in Australia have elected a new government and several independent candidates to their parliament. As Al Jazeera tells us, their main concern was climate change.
Day one in the nation's top job, and Anthony Albanese has promised unity and optimism to Australian voters. He'll hit the ground running, boarding a flight to Tokyo on Monday for his first official meeting as the nation's leader.
Obviously the Quad Leaders meeting is an absolute priority for Australia, and it enables us to send a message to the world that there is a change of government. There will be some changes in policy, particularly with regard to climate change and our engagement with the world on those issues.
This election race was run on personality over policy. Powerful swings left the Conservative Coalition Party without the numbers to hold on to government, as voters drove the Liberals out of key marginal seats. The outgoing Prime Minister returned to his church, conceding his party misjudged the electorate.
You've given us a great foundation from which we could walk what has been a very difficult walk, I've got to tell you, over the last almost 4 years. But at the last election, we really understood that it was for such a time as this. And now we both know it was for such a time as that.
New to Parliament are at least 9 high-profile female independents. The group campaigned for more action on climate change and legislating a federal integrity commission to investigate political corruption. That appealed to voters who abandoned candidates from Scott Morrison's party in blue ribbon seats.
Lovely to see the independents. I think a real change and a step forward for the environment.
I feel like maybe now's the time for us to do something different, and if we can get action on climate change, then that's going to be quite exciting.
This election has seen a seismic shift in Australia's political landscape. Not only is there a new group of independents demanding greater action on climate change, the Greens party is also hailing it as their best result ever, with dramatic gains in both the lower and the upper house. The postal vote is still being counted, and some seats remain undecided. But the Labor Party has vowed to get down to business with a more united approach to federal politics.
The waves of change there in Australia. Let's come back home now to hear what Wendy has for us on this Monday edition of Morning Barbados. What are you looking at today, Wendy?
Well, good morning to you, Shane. Good morning to our viewers. As you know, we are well within the season of emancipation, and we have yet another activity coming up. The National Library Service, along with the UWI, they'll be getting involved in some serious storytelling, Shane. And you know, the little ones always love a great story. Also, today is World Turtle Day. Yes, we'll be hearing exactly what's been happening to them, these little hatchlings. How has it been going? Are we really protecting that part of our environment? So we look at that, as well as our conversations on CARICOM, and the UWI Faculty of Social Sciences will be in to tell us what they've been up to. So details to these and more coming up.
Looking forward to it. See you in approximately 12 minutes time, Wendy. Well, coming up here first on the morning report, we'll show you how you're preparing for the Atlantic hurricane season. Apparently, homeowners are really active in getting ready for what will be an above active hurricane season this time around. And we'll take you to the final day of that big agricultural forum in Guyana. It has been a good one. We'll share the details with you here on the morning report. With a hurricane season of greater activity being predicted, hardware stores, community groups, and engineers are seeing a heightened level of awareness in terms of preparation by local homeowners. Wendy Burke tells us that given some of the shortages with some supplies last year, every contingency is being put in place this time around.
The electrical and water outages of last hurricane season will not too easily be forgotten, and hardware stores across the island are stocking up on the necessary supplies.
We saw a gradual increase in the purchasing of water tanks and water pumps and so on. We have stock ready for the customers. We have it covered in the area of the generators this year.
We have not seen an influx of anybody inquiring about hurricane supplies really, but we have been stocking up on our necessities: plywood, lumber, tarpaulins, water bottles, containers, generators, the basics. So far I have a variety, at least about four different brands of generators in stock, and we have a minimal supply of tarpaulins, but we are bringing in more as the season goes on.
Meanwhile, the district emergency organizations, like that in St. John, are checking up on their vulnerable. But John Haynes told CBC News more people should be proactive.
Every year you tell people store water, you tell people to clear around your gutters, make sure the houses properly, your roofs and so on are well nailed down, cut trees from around your property. But, you know, people become so complacent. that you still have to go there and remind them.
Homeowners are also getting repairs in order.
I born already, but not actually still because, I try to do as much as possible. But eventually I will get there. Eventually. Can't stuff so far. But I trying to help out my mother so that when I get to last stage, she'll be out the way. And I just all deal with myself.
Trying to get the roof in order so that, as the gentleman there said, you don't know what's going to happen. So you're just trying to get everything in order, just currently looking at prices, price quotes, and getting everything up and ready.
Hurricane season officially begins on June 1st with 19 named storms and predictions of 9 which could become hurricanes and 4 major hurricanes.
Wendy Burke reporting there. On the final day of the Agri-Investment Forum and Expo, which was held in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Ministers of Agriculture in Barbados and Guyana told Crystal Hoyt that the partnership between the two countries will be mutually beneficial, whilst also addressing trade barriers within CARICOM.
To date, where we are looking at systems that we can use, agri-food systems in Barbados, and through collaboration with my ministerial colleague, Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, we have agreed to have 50 shade houses similar to what Guyana is using for the production of broccoli and cauliflower. And we committed to this last year. Today now we have on the ground here in Guyana, as this conference is taking place, we have 6 students from Barbados who are participating in techniques in building shade houses. And those shade houses, of course, we are putting together, and we will have those assembled in Barbados, so that at the Pine Basin, for example, where we've cleared the land, you can see farmers going back to Pine Basin.
Minister, how will this partnership benefit Guyanese nationals?
You'll see a number of cooperation and a number of collaboration over the next few months. For example, Barbados have agreed to take in fresh product and fresh produce from Guyana to replace the one coming from Central America. And that's the will we are talking about. We have to remove barriers that are affecting Caribbean trade. And I am seeing the willingness there, I am seeing the same narrative, and I am hoping that we can achieve this outcome in a short time.
Speaking of removing barriers, I've spoken to a number of your farmers, and one of the countries that they have significant challenges with is Trinidad and Tobago. Have you been able to move that conversation forward to remove some of the barriers in place?
Well, I was very heartened yesterday after the address by the Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad. He himself recognized the importance of removing these barriers. And I'm hoping by the time this conference would have concluded, we'll have an MOU signed between Guyana and Trinidad so that we can remove those barriers. Because, as you rightly said, the same produce, the same way we send it to Barbados, but when we send it to Trinidad, it's been refused. So that is why we need to have common strategies, common laws, common requirements that govern trade in the Caribbean.
The MOU between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago was signed today as the countries look to collaborate in the area of food security. Reporting from Georgetown, Guyana, Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Trade unions in Trinidad and Tobago are up in arms over government's 2% salary increase offers to public sector workers there. The president of the Joint Trade Union Movement, Ansel Roger, is calling on the working class to show their power.
There is no economy without labor. And when labor stops working, no economy, regardless of what money you have, cannot operate.
Meantime, President General of the NUGFW, James Lambert, labeled the CPO's offer as disrespectful and nothing short of a dictatorship government.
It is the most disrespectful offer that I've ever heard in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the most disrespectful that we've ever heard. We in the labor movement as leaders has considered that to be dictatorial. It is dictatorship. We want to spell it out loud and clear to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. That is dictatorship. They have pauperized the public sector workers in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to repeat.
Mr. Lambert Speaking at the OWTU's Paramount Building office in San Fernando said government should be ashamed. He indicated other islands have received better union offers. He called on citizens to lay aside their political differences and unite for their livelihood.
And any government that is in office, that is in power, that has brought that disgrace and shame on the working class, we must stand up. Right. And the time has come. We must come up with something.
Some sporting news now. Barbados Pride captain Craig Brathwaite has bemoaned his team's batting effort after the Guyana Harpy Eagles beat the Pride by 5 wickets in round 3 at Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad, set just 68 to win from 13 overs late on the final day. The Harpy Eagles got home with an over to spare as they finished on 71 for 5.
As a group, we didn't really play good cricket from a batting point of view. Obviously, pitch was good. I mean, up to the last over today, and as batsmen, we didn't put a price on our wickets. We played some shots that not the best of shots, but I mean that happens in cricket. So we got a bounce back in these last 2 games. I thought Guyana with Shannon Paul would have played extremely well on a good day. Obviously, they batted on the better part of the pitch, and they were scoring at 2 runs over for a long period. So I thought as a bowling group we were decent, but batting wise, we didn't get enough runs on the board. In both innings, I think that's where we really fell short.
So scores in the match: Guyana 490 for 7 declared and 71 for 5. Of course, Barbados responding and then following on. Barbados 266 and 291. Victory to the Harpy Eagles by 5 wickets. Round 4 starts on Wednesday with the Pride up against the Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. Let's take a look at weather now. Temperature is 26.6 degrees Celsius. It's partly cloudy and the relative humidity is 82%. The barometric pressure is 15.5 millibars and those winds are coming out of the east at close to 40 kilometers per hour. We'll see a high tide at 10 this morning. There will be a low tide around 29 minutes after 1 in the afternoon and then a high tide later on at 11 tonight. The seas are smooth to moderate in open water. Swells are between 1 and 2 meters and increasing. Today will be cloudy with sunny periods and a few brief isolated light showers. And tonight it will be cloudy with clear periods and a few brief isolated light showers. And here's a look at the international weather forecast. That's it for this edition of the CBC Morning Report, the Monday edition. I'm Shane Seeley. I'll see you at 7 with headline news. But up next is Wendy Burke with Mornin Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
And good morning. Here's hoping that you had an awesome weekend and wishing you a marvelous Monday. I'm Wendy Burke with you this morning, and we're going to be dealing with the season of emancipation. Yes, it continues. Yet another event. We would have had one on Saturday, but we're going to have another coming up on the Wednesday this week at the Farley Hill National Park. To help us go through the event are Dr. David Akombo, the head of cultural studies at the University of the West Indies Cave Hill campus, and Jennifer Yard, the acting director of the National Library Service, because this event is under the Library Service. It's storytelling. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning to you both. Now, if I can come first to you, Ms. Yard, in terms of storytelling, why this event and why the venue?
Thank you so much. Well, at the National Library Service, Story Hour forms a part of its mandate to empower, entertain, and educate. children have been engaged in story hour for years. And not only to teach the literacy development skills, but also to translate and promote our cultural heritage and national identity. The story hour on Wednesday at Farley Hill National Park is just another event to promote our African heritage and culture to Barbadian students. And these students are from 4 primary schools: All Saints, Roland Edwards, Wilkie Combach, and St. Mary's.
Okay.
And the story hour begins from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning. And it is very, very important why we chose Farley Hill. Initially, we wanted to use the baobab tree in Queen's Park, but because they're having Agrofest, we had to change the venue. So we chose Farley Hill because of the ambience. It is large. It has a very wide space, and children, because of the pandemic, children cannot really come together so close. So for that reason that we chose Farley Hill National Park.
Now to you, Dr. Akombo, what are some of the tales that these little ones can look forward to hearing in terms of understanding our African heritage?
Thank you for having me. So I am very excited about this opportunity to share African stories, particularly children's stories, as they relate to the African cultures. History has it that Africans have learned from, in the past generation, they learn through stories, and particularly children. Children gathered around a fireplace, around when their parents were cooking, and the parents could double deal, teach, cook, and also tell stories. So storytelling is a very, very long and ancient tradition of African peoples. And children need to know that, not just children in Barbados, but children of African diaspora all over the world. They need to know that the storytelling is impactful in their livelihood. So I'll be telling a few stories of how children learn from the environment. For example, just the nature itself, the interlink between the nature and the humanity, particularly from the African perspective, which, of course, nature is a big deal for African cultures. So children learn from the natural environment, both the humans and the non-humans. Those are the kind of stories that children have learned throughout the past ages, and that's what they'll hear from me, just a glimpse of some of those stories.
Okay. Now, Ms. Yard, these children would not have been able to come into the library and participate in the activities as they would have liked. How have you, as a national service, been able to, try to continue the push toward literacy and the whole storytelling and getting them interested in all the tales from around the world?
Adverse effect on libraries, the country in general, and libraries no exception. So what we have used the Zoom and the technology to a large extent, to get our stories and our programs and services out to the public. And during the summer, for the past 2 years, we had our summer program online. That is not as efficient because, children were accustomed to being engaged at the National Library Service and traversing the compound and going upstairs and going on tours. These things that were, we weren't able to do them, but if we kind of relax now of some of the protocols and so forth, I think this year we might be able to have a small amount in the library. But as I said before, we use our Zoom platform a lot in engaging our services.
Okay, now in terms of the schools you've chosen, what age groups are we looking to bring in at this point in time for these stories? What's the age range?
Those age groups are mainly from age 8 to 10. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's good to know that we're making sure they're there. Now, for you, Dr. Akombo, Farley Hill National Park, how does that scene help you to be able to tell these tales and in a very special way? Because you mentioned that nature is very key in the African story.
Absolutely, because the park itself provides the natural conduit through which stories can be told. So I could pose questions to the children, what they think about the role of the trees in the environment, the role of the rocks, the role of the water, the role of all the animals that live in the nature. And stories begin right from there. And I'll tell them exactly that's how stories are told in Africa. Children learn from the environment, from their own view from that environment. So the park is very, very vital for the storytelling for the children. And I will let them know that the environment in which they are is not different from the African environment. So some of them may never have been to Africa, but I'll tell them Africa looks just like that. So those stories are connecting the humanity, the children's broader understanding of their history as well.
Now, you are with the UWI as the head of the Cultural Studies Department, and we're here now trying to impart this knowledge to some smaller ones during the season of emancipation. What are your views in terms of when this process needs to start to really get them in tune with their heritage?
Absolutely. So for the Faculty of Culture, Creative and Performing Arts, which is a pioneering faculty and in the UE system at Cave Hill, is very, very, very vital in strengthening the cultural heritage, education, and connecting of people of African descent, particularly children in Barbados, to understand that culture is very important all over the world. All peoples around the world have greater understanding and should have a greater understanding of their culture, both from a historical view, their present circumstances, and also the future trajectory of these cultures. And the Faculty of Culture, Creative Performing Arts is the cornerstone of area where this can be developed. And these children need to know that they have a place right here in Barbados where they can actually advance if they want to study a degree in cultural studies, for example, or a degree in music, a degree in art, in theater and dance, from a cultural or social cultural point of view. They have a place to go, so we are very excited about this opportunity.
Okay, if I can return to you now, Ms. Yard, in terms of these stories, we're going to have Dr. Akombo telling them, but are we also going to be looking to introduce them to any that were written by Barbadians, you know, to tell them, I mean, like Anansi's popular, you know, a lot of our folkloric characters, are they also going to be on the agenda?
Agenda, but what we usually do during our story hour at the library, we also introduce some of those Caribbean stories to the children. They're teaching them also the culture not only of Barbados but the Caribbean in general. But Dr. Akombo, maybe you can assist me here. We do not have the agenda. What do you think?
Definitely that would be a wonderful idea so that children can learn from their immediate environment from a historical view. But what I was intending to do is to bring them something outside of Barbados that's also related to the stories they have learned throughout their 10-year age span. So the stories that are from Africa, of African descent, might definitely have a lot of similarities with the ones they've heard. So even if they don't have an indigenous story from Barbados, they will still be able to relate to the story that they hear about Africa and African children and growth and history.
Who are some of the authors that you've selected, Dr. Akombo?
Well, that's a good question. The approach that I have taken is the oral tradition. And in the oral tradition, we don't have authorship. That's the cultural heritage. African storytellers were not necessarily they didn't have a copyright of the stories. The stories were for the people, by the people, for the people. And so there's no copyright to these stories. They are stories created from the environment, so long as they impact the learning of the children and to connect the histories of their milieu and also their own well-being.
Okay, well, let's hope that these little ones will connect and understand what all of it means in this season of emancipation. I want to thank you so much for joining us, Jennifer Yard, the Acting Director of the National Library Service, and Dr. David Akombo, Head of Cultural Studies at the UWI Cave Hill. I wish you both a marvelous Monday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. The little ones are heading to Farley Hill on Wednesday. Here's wishing them the best as they hear these stories firsthand. When we come back, we'll be going back to UWI Cave Hill, but this time to the Faculty of Social Sciences.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And welcome back. We're going to be heading over to the Hill, Cave Hill that is, and we're going to be meeting with the Faculty of Social Sciences who from today until the end of the week are going to be staging some virtual activities to get you familiar with what they have to offer. To take us through is Professor Troy Lord, who's the Dean of the Faculty. Good morning to you, Professor Lord.
Good morning, and thank you, Mornin Barbados, for hosting us this week.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, tell us about this virtual week and all that will unfold.
Okay, thank you. Well, this week, what the faculty is doing is we intended to showcase the work of the faculty in various dimensions. Most Barbadians perhaps know us only really for teaching, but what we also want to highlight this week is the other pillars under which the faculty has to perform. We have to perform in areas of research, publication, outreach, and service. So, among other things, besides, of course, trying to demonstrate and to show Barbadian potential students the work that we do when it comes to teaching, so our various programs at the undergraduate level, at the postgraduate level, we also want to show to the Barbadian public that we are a lot more than just teaching, even as we understand the, of course, importance of delivering high-class teaching services to our Barbadian and, of course, the wider Caribbean.
Okay, now SOSI happens to be the largest faculty on the Hill. In terms of introducing individuals to what is happening, of course, you will be expecting larger enrollment, but I think sometimes that the faculty is bursting at the seams and I'm not sure you can hold any more.
Well, I tend to agree. I think really what we have been blessed with in the faculty is that we have very attractive suite of programs. And we find, yes, that students tend to gravitate toward faculty. We offer at the undergraduate level over 85 programs. At the top master's level, we offer about 30 programs. And yes, we do have, I would say, very high application numbers. You mentioned the largest faculty. Yes, we are over half the undergraduate population and over half the postgraduate population as well. So, truthfully, it's a blessing and a curse, meaning that we are entirely pleased with the popularity of our programs, but it does definitely focus on the resources we have to do those programs. What we also do in the faculty is that we are constantly reviewing, revising, and trying to improve the content, the curriculum, and the method of delivery of these programs. So, we keep our eyes and ears to the ground in terms of what students want, also in terms of what our stakeholders in the business community, the NGO community, and of course the public service, what they're looking for in terms of the types of students they would like to absorb into the workforce.
Okay, that was going to be my next question to you about the changing dynamic of the faculty, because I know you work a lot with the private sector, especially in the areas of accounting and so on, to be able to switch up the programming to meet those needs. So given that, are we introducing any new courses come this new semester?
Well, no, this semester what you will see is essentially an enhancement of what we have on the books. Now, some of our flagship programs you can mention, and I'll mention the ones particularly at the graduate level. Of course, we have our very popular program, the most popular program at graduate level right now is our Masters in Business Analytics with various specializations. That is very highly popular and very high demand for that. We have the Masters in E-Governance. This is a program where we have worked especially with the government, the civil service, to basically bring a program to the public that is intended to bring the deliverance of governance at various levels, facets, into the 21st century. And what you will see, I would say, more than anything, is a bit of innovation in terms of how we deliver those programs. Coming out of the COVID pandemic, it is not over. But what it basically did for us is it essentially allowed us to also fine-tune and to innovate on our method of delivery. So you're going to find that there's a lot more hybrid delivery in terms of these programs, because one of the things, especially at the graduate level, postgraduate level, is we have a lot of person to work. And so what we've done is basically find ways to deliver our programs to them so that they don't have to, leave work, come to classes. So we have things like recorded lectures. The asynchronous delivery is a big feature now of what you will see going forward for persons that need that type of method of delivery so that they can enhance their studies, enhance their careers, and that's what you're going to see is a real feature of what we can do going forward. We do, you mentioned new programs, you mentioned new programs, so yes, we're always looking to enhance the suite of programs that we have. And so I'd say, in terms of executive management, definitely you will find in the such part capabilities of management, we want to highlight there as well. The suite of programs we have executive MBAs, various specializations, diplomas, things like management, and if you come to the faculty, you can speak to anyone in the faculty office or in your department. You will definitely find a program there that will suit your needs.
Okay, so if I want to be part of this virtual week and to actually see what's going to unfold, where do I go, and are there going to be different sessions on each day?
Most definitely. So this week we have, we're here with you to speak to Mornin Barbados. So you're going to be hearing from persons in the management, Department of Economics, Government Social, Social Work and Psychology. Tomorrow it will be the Center for Biosecurity Studies and the Shria Frampton Center. Each evening, yes, we do have different sessions. As you mentioned, we're going to break them down by department. This evening, the Department of Economics will be hosting a virtual session. And during the week, yes, each department and center and institute, they will be hosting sessions that we will get highlight the various programs they have on offer. In terms of where to find this information, you can go to the faculty website. That's www.capel.edu/FSS. That, of course, is the Faculty of Social Sciences. When you go to the website, you're going to see the schedule that we have that allows persons to log in virtually. So you see the login information, the link, the password, and so forth. One of the things, these sessions are short and they're not meant to drag on, so that we have, even with the departments, we have them split into undergraduate offerings, postgraduate offerings. Persons are going to hear as well how you can finance your degrees, especially if we're speaking about postgraduate offerings. I want to mention here as well something that I think would be of interest apart from the teaching to the public. And this week, what we are doing is we are going to be holding a town hall in the Warner Theater at the Elvira Center for Imagination. We're going to be hosting the U.S. Secretary of State, Brian Nichols. That's going to be on Wednesday, and that's going to be on U.S.-Caribbean relations. So that promises to be a highlight of the week. Like I said, we want to showcase what we do apart from teaching.
Okay. Now, tell me a bit about your PhD program.
Right. So we have in the faculty, we have, let's say, the main departments, economics. They offer MPhils and PhDs in economics and finance. Department of Management Studies, the Education Management, Department of Government, Sociology, Social Work and Psychology. They offer MPhils and PhDs in Political Science and Sociology. They also offer Social Work. Services, an affiliate of the faculty, they offer PhDs in social, economic development, social development, and one other which slips me at the moment. Now, yes, these programs are definitely for students who have more research focus in mind. So these are intense degrees, have to produce new work in the sense of new. There's a difference between the MPhil and PhD, certainly in terms of the length, 50,000 words for MPhil, 80,000 PhDs, and you, during your course of study, you may do a number of workshops and seminars to enhance your ability and capacity to perform research. You do have seminars for the public so that there's some scrutiny of the work that you do. You have to defend a thesis at the end of this work. And once you reach that level, then yes, the highest academic rank that you can reach the student, of course. And what we find, I would say, is the faculty. Well, we have more students interested in our taught master's program. That those tend to wrap up within 12 months to 24 months, depending on whether you're a part-time student. You definitely have quite a large number of students who have this interest in undertaking the work for an MPhil and a PhD. And the faculty definitely want to encourage more students to pursue those degrees. One of the things that enhances the rank of a faculty or a university as a whole is the number of research students that we can produce. And so definitely, if you're thinking about an MPhil or PhD in any of the areas that we offer, broadly speaking, economics, math, management, political science, sociology, the things that I just mentioned, definitely you are encouraged to, you can speak to someone in these departments to get a sense of whether what you're interested in, something they can advise you in. But yeah, definitely, it's something that we would like to pay more attention to the faculty and yes, thank you.
Okay. Now, you are also very much in the community, and a number of the SOSI students would have taken part in Operation Seek and Save when we had the COVID situation going on and we wanted to encourage more testing. Outside of that, what are the parameters for other similar programs within the community to link the students of the faculty with Barbados on a whole?
Right. Well, certainly, one of the programs we have in our faculty, the Bachelor's in Social Work. One of the key courses or components of that program is what they call this. They don't call it an internship; they call it a practicum. And so, in this course, within the Bachelor's in Social Work, students are attached to various organizations, so schools, different ministries in government, and so forth. And so this attachment requires them, of course, to basically carry the role of a social worker. They are supervised in the field. Persons may or may not be aware, yes, that these are social work students performing these duties. And it's a very intense course. Students don't only have to work, they also have to produce practical reports, which, of course, have to meet the required standards. So students then that graduate from this program and that we consider social workers. Without them completing this particular course as a part of the BSc in social work, they cannot be considered, or they're not supposed to consider themselves social workers. So this is something that's ongoing. This happens every academic year with every new cohort in the social work program. Beyond that, in terms of what I would say would be an ongoing program where we interact with the community, we don't have those specifically. I would say that the Faculty of Sciences though welcomes any interest public to pursue such a program. We definitely have a demand for these types of programs where student faculty is very, very keen to to work with our stakeholders to bring these sort of programs on the stream. We think that any sort of experiential learning will only enhance the type of students that the faculty produces. And going forward, the faculty door is open. My faculty, the fact the office is definitely willing to work with any partner there. But I want to say this as well. I mean, what we also want are quality programs, quality internships, quality, let's say, types of interventions that would really enhance the students. We don't want the program to be such that students turn up and, do basic things that are really not going to enhance the type of student they are. So doing things like photocopying, that type of thing. That's something that, yes, you can do, but we really want these type of programs to be a real improvement on the type of student that we produce.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
A final reminder of the website so we can log on to this virtual week of activities and find out what the faculty has to offer.
Yes, well, thank you. And that is www.kfill.uwi.edu/FSS. And yes, you will find the schedule there. We encourage you to log in. If you or someone a family member or friend, wishes to pursue a degree in the University of West Indies, we'd like you to do that with us in Faculty of Social Sciences. We will definitely have a program of interest to you, and we'll definitely be willing to share this information to help you in your future endeavor.
Okay, we want to thank you so much, Professor Troy Lord, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. Wishing you all the best during this week. Have a great day.
Thank you, Wendy.
That was Professor Lord. When we come back, there's going to be news upcoming, but we'll also be having some conversations with CARICOM and hearing all about World Turtle Day. So there's lots more ahead. We'll be back.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, I'm Shane Seeley. Here's your headline news for this Monday, May 23rd. Tourism Minister Senator Lisa Cummins is confident about a return on investment with government's move to transform the visitor experience here in Barbados. This is being done by investing in the island's tourist attractions to improve tourist offerings across the island. The tourism minister gave details about some of the plans on the People's Business last night here on TV8 as the discussion focused on predictions for tourism in 2022 and beyond. Given an example, she revealed some of the major transformational work done at one of the island's premier attractions, Harrison's Cave.
We've taken through the new management company a single attraction and converted it into 5 attractions. So rather than going to Harrison's Cave for a 45-minute tour or an hour-long tour, we now can have an entire day-long experience in one location. In the center of the island, you have so many emerging attractions that have come about that are specifically focusing on ecotourism. On the north coast of Barbados, some of the most spectacular locations that you could see. And when we launched the summer campaign, the postcard campaign component of that last week, for example, we were simply taking an opportunity for Barbadians and locals equally to frame out some of those iconic experiences. So the rock at Bashaba, for example, that entire area, we've been talking with the partners who maintain and the bushing and Trinidad bathroom facilities in our attractions and our restaurants, especially along the coastlines. That simple things like maintaining them to standard first for Barbadians, who are our first tourists, and then of course everyone benefits, including those that visit us.
Meanwhile, there's been more positive reaction out of the U.S. regarding the change in entry protocols into Barbados, where vaccinated travelers will no longer be required to have a pre-arrival COVID-19 test as of Wednesday. The tourism director for the USA, UC Skeet, says bookings are up for the summer period and increased flight capacity is coming out of the United States.
From June 1st, we're now going to be having 2 daily services out of JFK, and on Saturdays there will be 3 flights out of JFK. So we're really going to see a ramp up of capacity out of JFK, which certainly will mean more seats for persons to come down to the destination. And already, based on the trends and the pacing that we're seeing, those flights are already doing quite well. Similarly, this is out of Charlotte now. Typically, we would have had a weekly service out to Charlotte on American Airlines. In June, we have 4 flights out of Charlotte, and in July, 3 flights out of Charlotte. So that is something even for summer, where we're seeing that even our airline partners have demonstrated significant confidence in the destination and the destination's ability to perform.
In other news this morning, the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs here in Barbados has issued a voluntary recall for some Jif branded peanut butter products due to potential salmonella contamination. The move follows a notice from the manufacturer J.M. Smucker Company, which stated the recalled peanut butter had been distributed across the United States in retail stores and other outlets. The recalled products have the lot code numbers 1274425 through to 2140425. I want to give you those numbers again. The lot code numbers 1274425 through to 2140425, which can be found alongside the best if used by date. The statement said salmonella is an organism which can cause serious and sometimes fatal infections in young children, frail or elderly people, and others with weakened immune systems, with healthy people often experiencing fever, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. A 94-year-old woman is Barbados's latest fatality related to COVID-19. That happened over the weekend as she was fully vaccinated. Her passing brings the total number of COVID-19 related deaths here in Barbados to 440. Meanwhile, a total of 187 new cases, 74 males and 113 females, were detected out of 827 tests conducted by the Best dos Santos Public Health Lab yesterday. The cases comprised 38 individuals under the age of 18 and 149 who were 18 years and older. 72 people were in isolation facilities, while 4,210 people were in home isolation. Now this developing story, and police are still looking into it. Sunday morning worship at a St. James Church, it came to an abrupt halt after an individual walked in and accosted several churchgoers. Sharika Griffith has been following this developing story.
This was the moment people following the online stream of the Sion Hill New Testament Church of God may have noticed something was wrong. It was around 11:30 Sunday morning, and Assistant Pastor Reverend Ambrose Headley, seen here in the black shirt, glances up and pauses the sermon he had been delivering. The individual interrupting the service is never seen on camera, but the chaos that ensues is obvious. This continues for another 45 seconds, the camera eventually falling. But the panicked voices of worshippers can still be heard pleading with the individual to let go and leave. The live feed then ends suddenly, but another video would subsequently be posted showing the bloodied pastor, Reverend Gregory Holder, and his injured wife.
He spat in my face. He spat in the pastor's face. He again began to assault the pastor of the New Testament Church at Sion Hill, demanding that we stop calling the name of Jesus. This is how he left the pastor of this church, bloodied. We have put this matter before the Lord, but we have also called the Barbados Royal Police Force. He cuffed me all in my face. This country is to be a safe country where we can worship God in peace.
Police PRO Acting Inspector Rodney Innes has confirmed the incident was reported to the Whole Town station, and the alleged perpetrator is in custody, assisting with investigations. He says 2 individuals were left with injuries which are not serious. They sought private medical attention. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
And that's our headline news for this Monday morning. I'm Shane Seeley. We'll take a break here, but when you come back, you'll have more with Wendy Burke on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And welcome back. Now, this morning we're going to continue our conversations with CARICOM. I want to welcome His Excellency Ambassador David Comishaw, Barbados' ambassador to CARICOM. Now, last week, the 25th meeting for the Council of Foreign and Community Relations, COFCOR, was held. and he'll give us an update as to what that meeting means for us in terms of our relations with the Western Hemisphere. But we'll also look at the fact that it's soon going to be time to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the CARICOM Cuba Summit. Good morning to you, Ambassador Commission.
Good morning, Wendy. Morning, Barbados. Pleasure to be here. Yes, Wendy. Most people might have been focused on the Agricultural Investment Forum and Expo in Guyana last week. But in addition to that, there was also this important meeting of the Council for Foreign and Community Relations. That's the council that brings together all of the ministers of foreign affairs of CARICOM. And we use that meeting to look at CARICOM's engagements with the rest of the world. So we had the 25th meeting of what we call the COFCOR, that particular council last week.
Okay, so outside of COFCOR, what does it mean in terms of developing policy for us to link with the Western Hemisphere? Did anything significant come out of it?
Yeah, well, the COFCOR agenda was a very, very wide agenda. I don't think I could report on everything that we did at that meeting. I would try to kind of confine myself to the items that Barbados most participated in. The first item on the agenda was a paper that looked at what CARICOM's relations should be, foreign policy relations should be, with the rest of the Western Hemisphere, with the Latin American countries, with the United States, Canada, with the Organization of American States, with the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. You know, at the entire hemisphere. And I think the main thing stressed by the paper, and it was done by a Caribbean consultant who's based in Washington. The main thing stressed was this proposal that CARICOM should have a foreign policy that is based on a notion of activist non-alignment. Well, I think for me, I think that's what that is the kind of foreign policy that Barbados has been practicing since 1966, when Mr. Barrow said, our foreign policy will be based on the notion of friends of all, satellites of none. But it was a very interesting paper, and it was agreed that we would all take it back to our governments, to our cabinets, and then we will have, once it is considered nationally in each CARICOM state, we will then have a special meeting of COFCOR to look specifically at it and see what refinements we want to make to how we engage with the rest of the Western Hemisphere. Okay. So yeah, that was the major discussion item. But then there were in the meeting itself, there were a number of practical things. For example, Barbados used the meeting to drum up CARICOM support for one of our candidates, Mrs. Faith Marshall Harris, who is up for re-election to the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child. And she's up against candidates from Argentina and Panama. So COFCOR is also an occasion where you do practical things like that. You look at our candidates for different posts internationally and gaining CARICOM support so that we all vote as a bloc. And yes, so we pushed the candidacy of Mrs. Marshall Harris and a number of other items that were on the agenda, Wendy.
Okay, now let's look at the 50th anniversary. CARICOM has been supporting Cuba for some time, regardless of embargoes. They're within the Caribbean Sea, and we have been giving them our support. We're looking at 50 years of relations, Ambassador Commission.
Yes, well, that was an item on the agenda as well. This year is the 50th anniversary year of those relations. Remember, back in 1972, it was Prime Minister Errol Barrow, Prime Minister Williams of Trinidad and Tobago, Manley of Jamaica, and Burnham of Guyana that embraced Cuba and broke the isolation that had been imposed on Cuba by the United States of America. And so we are commemorating the 50th anniversary. Barbados has stepped forward and has offered to host that 50th anniversary Heads of Government Summit on the 8th of December this year. So Guyana has also stepped forward as well. So it's between Barbados and Guyana. And I trust it will be in Barbados, and we'll have that summit. We'll have that summit here. So you can look forward to not only the summit, but between now and December, there are going to be a number of commemorative events in Barbados actually leading up to that summit.
Okay, well, that's great. Now, we are also looking to have that bridge between us and Africa, not just in terms of the whole reparative justice issues, but we're also looking at how we can have active trade, how our cultural industries can benefit each other, etc. So where are we at in terms of cementing those relations?
Well, I think the thing that was most focused on at the COFCOR meeting is the follow-up to the first Africa CARICOM summit that was held in September last year. And I think the most two very significant things that came out of that summit was that it was agreed that henceforth, the 7th of September will be designated Africa Caribbean Day, and that we will seek to have an annual summit between Africa and the Caribbean on that day. And secondly, that we are going to the CARICOM and the African Union, we are going to collaborate on developing a permanent forum of African and Caribbean territories and states. So we focused on that, and we made the point that this is a priority. We have to get these things done this year. In other words, we need to put in place the basic structure of that permanent forum, and we need to have that follow-up summit in September of this year. This is very important because if we could actually establish the forum, it will provide an institutional space in which, you know, the Caribbean and Africa, we can come together, we can discuss our problems, we can see how we can help each other. For example, right now, we have the problem of Haiti, trying to find a solution to the Haitian crisis. This is something that Africa could be playing a role with, helping us, you know, and helping to make our efforts stronger at the international level. Similarly, Africa has problems, political problems with the civil war in Ethiopia or coups in West Africa. The input and the wisdom of the Caribbean could be helpful. And this is aside from practical matters of trade and tourism exchanges and all the rest of it. So it is all there for us to do, the Caribbean and Africa. And I think we in the CARICOM, we feel that Africa, the relationship with Africa is going to be perhaps our most important international relationship going forward.
Okay. We're also looking at addressing our relationship with the Dominican Republic.
Yes, that came up. You know, back in 2013, the then government of the Dominican Republic passed a law that stripped tens of thousands of Dominicans of Haitian ancestry of their citizenship rights in the Dominican Republic and started deporting these people to Haiti. Some of these people know nothing about Haiti. They have no family in Haiti, no support structures in Haiti. So back then, 2013, CARICOM responded to that and imposed a freeze on its relations with the Dominican Republic. So there's now some suggestions that because the government in the Dominican Republic has changed, that there should be a thawing of that freeze. So this matter came up for discussion, but Barbados had to point out to the foreign ministers that although there's been a change in government, recently the new government has started building a wall, a concrete wall, across the Dominican Republic's border with Haiti. And I don't know if Caribbean people have been paying attention to this. When President Trump started building that wall with the US border with Mexico, there was a big hue and cry. Well, the Dominican Republic is building a 122 long concrete wall, 4 meters high, then topped off with additional wire fencing, with 70 watchtowers, with radars, movement sensors, cameras, drones, and we have not taken this seriously enough. So Barbados's position was that if CARICOM is going to consider a re-engagement with Dominican Republic, this issue of the wall and has to be front and center, and we need to be saying to the Dominican Republic that this really cannot happen. So there's a problem in the Dominican Republic with this seemingly very entrenched anti-Haitian phobia and discrimination, and we have to deal with it.
Yeah, indeed, I agree with that. We're also looking at the 9th Summit of the Americas. There's so many meetings going on, Ambassador. How are you keeping track and focus all of these different types of relationships?
Yeah, well, this one is the hot potato, because this 9th Summit of the Americas is being hosted by the United States. It's going to take place in Los Angeles, California, next month in June. And the US government has determined that it will not be inviting the Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. And why won't it be inviting those countries? Well, simply because the US government disapproves of the governments of these 3 countries. And CARICOM has said to the US, look, this is wrong. The Summit of the Americas does not belong to any particular country. You're simply hosting it. And way back in 2012, initially when the summit first started, Cuba was not invited. And then in 2012, at the summit in Colombia, the countries of the hemisphere said that this cannot go on. And so it was agreed since then, since 2012, that the summit all countries will have to be invited. And that's what happened in Panama in 2015. That's what happened in Peru in 2018, although Venezuela was invited in 2018, but the president of Peru insisted that he wasn't inviting the president of Venezuela. But the point is, it has been accepted that the summit must be inclusive for all countries. So CARICOM had initially said that if these 3 countries were not invited, CARICOM has sent out that signal that we would, in all likelihood, boycott the summit. But since then, the U.S. has been having its diplomats engage and all of the different maneuverings. So up to now, it is still not clear exactly what CARICOM's position will be. I suspect very much that there may not be a unanimous CARICOM position on this, that different CARICOM member states would probably take different positions. For example, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has made it clear that if these 3 countries are not invited, it will boycott the summit. So we will see. We will see what the different positions are, but it is a hot potato, and a lot of discussion is going on, and a small subcommittee of CARICOM leaders are still engaging with the US government, trying to persuade them that what they're doing is wrong and that they need to backtrack on that idea. So, but we'll see.
Okay, and I'm sure you'll keep us informed going forward either way. The Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit, another major one coming up. And it's at a time when I believe that the Caribbean now has 2 candidates up that we're looking at to represent us within the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's another hot potato that is causing some controversy. Unfortunate. The incumbent, the first Black female Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Baroness Scotland, born in Dominica, but spent most of her life in Britain. She was put forward some years ago as a Dominican candidate, and she won. And as if she's a Dominican candidate, then she's a CARICOM candidate. So she won the post some years back. She's now up for re-election, and the the practice within the Commonwealth is that the Secretary General is given 2 terms. So in a sense, she is our candidate, our candidate, and we expect that just like every other Secretary General, she will be given her 2 terms. However, Britain, and I would say primarily the white Commonwealth countries, for some reason, have been trying to remove her. You know, they've put up their own reasons, but their reasons don't really hold water. It's very peculiar, but for some reason they want to remove Baroness Scotland, and so they have been looking for candidates to challenge her. Initially, they had gotten a Kenyan candidate, but Kenya was persuaded by CARICOM that was not the right thing to do, and Kenya withdrew its candidate. When CARICOM had its heads of government meeting in Belize in March, this matter came up, and it was agreed by the heads of government that CARICOM would express overwhelming support for the re-election of Baroness Scotland. The only country that really had some difficulty was Trinidad and Tobago, so overwhelming support as opposed to unanimous support. But since then, out of the blue, Jamaica has come forward and announced a candidate. So now, unfortunately, we're in the position where CARICOM has 2 candidates, and we would like to vote as a bloc, but with 2 candidates, CARICOM member states are now going to have to make a choice between Baroness Scotland or the Jamaican candidate. So it's unfortunate because really and truly, we should be going into this kind of election as a bloc, as a united CARICOM bloc.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out, but it's going to be interesting going forward. Now, the issue of climate change impacts on each and every one of the CARICOM member states, albeit differently in some capacities, but nonetheless, we are all vulnerable small island developing states. So how did the meeting deal with where we're at in terms of climate change and getting some financial support in terms of helping us to fight and put some monies towards mitigation?
Yes, well, this was an item on the agenda that featured Barbados very prominently. In fact, Barbados has now been asked by the COFCOR to take the lead on all matters relating to climate change. And we took the opportunity to put forward a short paper that really outlined the position that our ministers of foreign affairs, our ambassadors, our high commissioners, all CARICOM diplomats should be pursuing in international forums on this issue. And basically, what it was saying is that, look, CARICOM, we must be the leading activists in pushing for climate vulnerability to be the #1 factor in determining access to concessional funding internationally, rather than this flawed measurement of GDP, gross domestic product per capita. So we must push for this. We also have to push the idea that those components of our national debt that we now have that are related to climate change and to the COVID-19 pandemic, that these must be refinanced in terms of long-term finance arrangements. They must be restructured. We must not be asked to pay these debts, as they currently exist. So we are talking about these kinds of debts should carry interest rates of no more than 1%, and you should have a 50-year repayment period. So these are the ideas that we are going to be pushing in international fora all over the world, that we are on the front line of the climate crisis. We must be given a much greater percentage of the climate finance, and we must be given those funds as grant funds, not loans, because the damage that we are facing is not of our making. We have not really contributed to global warming. It is the industrialized countries, and we cannot be expected to carry additional debt. Already, our debt burden is too large.
Yes,
And
that
we're
it
also
is.
pushing this idea. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you get the idea, but Barbados will be leading this charge on behalf of CARICOM.
Well, I'm happy that they've chosen us because you already know how our Prime Minister feels about it. The rest of the world has seen her. So let's hope that all of these various initiatives go forward and they go forward well in the interest of Barbados and CARICOM on the whole. Ambassador Commishan, I want to thank you for joining me this morning. Always great to have conversations with you about what is happening within the region and how we need to come together as brothers and sisters and unite for one common good. Have a great morning.
Couldn't have said it better than you, Bendy. Thank you very much.
Okay. That was Ambassador His Excellency David Commishan, Barbados' ambassador to CARICOM. When we come back after the break, we'll tell you all about the big agricultural event coming up, Agrofest.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And welcome back. It's now time to talk about our biggest agricultural exhibition, which will be happening at the weekend. To help me discuss Agrofest 2022 is Mr. Peter Chase, who's the president of the Barbados Agricultural Society, who staged the event. A year was taken off, but we're back. Good morning, Mr. Chase.
To you, Wendy. Morning to all Barbadians. Morning to my CARICOM brothers and sisters. I'm happy to be back. It is a chance for us to showcase the importance of agriculture in the economic landscape of not only Barbados, but the whole Caribbean, and the contribution to the GDP of these islands. This year, the government of Barbados is partnering with us, and we also have with us this year the government of Guyana and Suriname will play a part, or as far north as Jamaica will be coming as well. And for the opening, our Prime Minister Mia Mormoli and President Ali will do the opening for Agrofest.
Now that's a big one, because usually it's our agricultural minister, but now we're showing that, you know, the region really needs to be helping itself and each other, especially in the area of agriculture, as we're all pushing toward food security, given what's happening globally.
Yes, we're under threat all the time by external forces. You will hear James Paul and myself complain about some issues this week. We've had some unscrupulous wholesalers in Barbados importing pork, and that has to be discussed. But nevertheless, we have challenges. The farmers are stressed. We continue to speak about something to be done with crop theft, the monkeys, and recently, as yesterday, I spoke to brass tacks about the rat situation in Barbados. I'm calling for either a import tax ease or a VAT ease, and really a national drive to control the rat situation in Barbados, which is affecting the food crop farmers.
No, I had heard an inspector of one of the environmental officers who was on with us sometime last week speak to this fact that the rat population has now more than doubled, and because a lot of clearing and so on wasn't going on over the COVID period. Now, as farmers, what have you been doing on your own individual farms, especially in relation to the livestock rearing, to try to mitigate against these rats? How have you been securing your farms?
Well, at the Barbados Agricultural Society, we've had a lot of seminars and symposiums happening to educate the farming community. Certainly, biosecurity is our main drive on our farms. In terms of cleaning and in terms of how we store things, in terms of our feed and baiting. But it has become a financial burden for farmers in Barbados to continue to buy rat bait at the exorbitant prices. And I must tell you that the persons involved in selling these rat baits don't have any interest in agriculture. They don't have any farms, So it's just about profit for them. Once we were able to get bait from the Ministry of Agriculture through the seed store way back then, and we're calling out for help. There's some parts of Barbados we can't even grow melons, and that is challenging for us.
Okay. Is it also impacting on the ones who are not doing open land farming, but are into, say, hydroponics and greenhousing? Are they having the same impact with the rats as well?
Most definitely. The rat population will attack any area. The sugarcane farmers this year will lose millions of dollars because of it. And I continue, I want to put a plug in here to say to Barbadians, be careful where you buy cane from and from whom, because you have to be sure that the cane is properly sanitized. We have farmers that sell cane juice and have good facilities in retail outlets, and these, and especially coconut water. You need to buy from outlets and bona fide farmers
Okay.
that you know.
Because when I come Agrofest, I'm expecting to have some freshly squeezed cane juice and my coconut vendor there, you know. So who else will be having at Agrofest on Saturday and Sunday?
Oh, we'll have a lot of things happening. We open at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we have at 10. We have our popular Pine Hill Dairy and beef show. That is a very popular item. We have Frosties partnering with us this year for the kids. We have RL Seal on Saturday with a mixology demo. We have fashion show with our local artists. We have storytelling with Jennifer Walker. We have BNOC, Bust Your Brain. That will have a main stage. We have Cartoon Carter Parade. Then we have our main sponsor, our platinum sponsor, in the evening at 3 o'clock. It's Pinnacle Feeds, the barbecue and goat show. I mean, that is awesome. That is something I live for every year. And in the afternoon to lighten the spirits and to give all some entertainment, we'll have a soca explosion, and that will be led by MC Kurt Brown. That will take main stage, and you know, it's a time to unwind and for us, the farmers, and you, the patrons, to come
Yes.
and thoroughly for yourself. You know.
Yes, and we're happy to note that the price of the tickets hasn't gone too far. You know, adults are $18, children are still between 3 and 12. So that's a blessing as we all look to greening together a Caribbean thing. Happy to know that our Caribbean neighbors are on board with us as well, Mr. Chase. So I am wishing you and the BAS the best Agrofest ever. After that 1-year break, we are looking forward to Saturday and Sunday.
Looking forward to seeing you and all Barbadians to what is going to be an awesome show. I promise you that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
That was Mr. Peter Chase, the president of the Barbados Agricultural Society. Agrofest coming up this weekend. Go on out, take the family. We'll be back after the break and we'll tell you all about World Turtle Day.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And we're back. Well, happy World Turtle Day to you. As we know, there is a sea turtle project under the UWI campus going on, and they've been saving these little turtles and ensuring that nesting is safe for them for a number of years now. But we're going to hear what's going to be happening for today especially, and I want to welcome Carla Daniel of the Barbados Sea Turtle Project and Anna Matashina, a volunteer with that project. She's actually here on the Barbados Stamp program, and she's volunteering to help these precious little animals. Good morning to you both, ladies. Now,
good morning,
Carla, how are we going to be doing things this year for World Turtle Day? What's going to be coming up?
Well, it's an interesting question because for us, essentially every day is World Sea Turtle Day. We're right in the middle of training at the moment. We have about 27, 28 brand new volunteers who are going to be joining our patrol teams for this season. Our hawksbill nesting season will commence on the 1st of June. We already have our ladies coming up and nesting. We've been getting calls from all over to the 24-hour hotline. So we are just kind of in the middle of prepping right now, getting the volunteers trained, getting feet on the ground, so that when our turtles come up, when they're emergency situations, we are ready and able to answer.
Okay, have you found, Carla, that in terms of doing this training and going into the popular nesting sites, that there's been any major disturbance to their habitats, or do we have comfortable and safe nesting grounds?
One of our biggest problems in general is loss of nesting habitat. So this can be linked directly, in some cases, to climate change. In other cases, it can be linked to beach management. And this is something that I really, really, really want to implore people this year. Sea turtles are struggling to find places to nest. There are many of our beaches which have significantly eroded and are simply not available. However, on some of the other beaches where there is space, our management of that space essentially blocks turtles out from nesting. So I would like to ask our hotels to remove their beach chairs from the beach at night. We are sharing this space, and it is important that the biological functions that will allow our sea turtle population to continue are able to take place. So restaurants and hotels that have their tables and chairs out, in the last few years, we've seen a remarkable spread from within properties to out on the beach. So persons are taking up more and more and more of our beachfront space. And not only are they taking them up during the hours of business, which is understandable, of course, they're also leaving this furniture out 24 hours a day, right through the night. And what that means is that when sea turtles come up, not only can they not find adequate space to nest, but they're in danger. So we have turtles squeezing their way between beach chairs, getting trapped in beach furniture, and it is a major hazard at this point.
Okay. Now, Anna, in terms of volunteering, were you into sea turtles before Barbados, or was it just something that piqued your interest once you got here?
It's a very interesting story. The hawksbill turtle I saw only in Barbados, and it was my dream to saw them when I came here in December as Barbados welcome stamp owner. And I was dreaming for seeing turtles, and directly in the New Year's night, I met 200 baby hatchlings, and Carla emerged to them, and it was really great and amazing event in my life.
Okay, so is this your only volunteer activity here with these turtles, and how does it thrill you to be helping them?
Here in Barbados, it's my only volunteer opportunity, and I believe I will be involved in this project till September for 3 or maybe later for 4 days per week. I think it's well enough.
Okay, so she's enjoying it. What about some of the other volunteers you've been able to capture, Carla?
We have an amazing team. I really can't say enough about them. People see volunteering and they think, oh, you stroll around the beach, you help super cute baby turtles, and it looks like an amazing thing to do. And it really is, but it is also amazingly difficult. So there are these long nights with no sleep, boiling hot sun, call after call, driving up and down the coast, digging, trying to save eggs from development and construction. There's frustration, there's rain. We tell our volunteers the only reason we cancel patrol is if there's a tropical storm or worse. So they're out in all weather conditions. And this year we have volunteers from the University of the West Indies. So we have 2nd and 3rd year students. We have volunteers who have come specifically to Barbados on our international volunteer program to work for 3 months. We also have volunteers who are coming from within the region also to work in Barbados. We have an amazing couple who've been trying to volunteer with us since 2019, before COVID. Their trip was canceled, and they have been in contact and eager every single year since then, and they finally made it to Barbados this year. So they're here to volunteer with us as well. And of course, we have returning volunteers, persons who worked last year. They really recognized the importance of the work they were doing and the difference they were making, and they've dedicated their time again to come out. So they've gone through the super grueling training process every single day from 9 to 4 a.m. sitting in a classroom for an entire week. And now we're in the field starting this afternoon, and we'll be doing night patrols and day patrols and just trying to get them used to the field setting. So we have, I mean, our volunteers are, I like to think they are kind of the best of the bunch. They're a group of amazing people who sacrifice, because it really is a sacrifice. They're not, paid for their time, and they're giving their time to Barbados, essentially, because these turtles belong to all of us.
Okay, now you, through UWI, have also been working with a number of other international partners. You've been doing regional training. We're looking at white cast, and we're also looking at tagging. How effective has the tagging program been? And are we seeing these hawksbill turtles resurfacing once they've gone off? What's the population survival like?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So we are a member of the wider Caribbean Sea Turtle Network, which is a network of trained experts and conservation programs throughout the region, from Central to South America, the entire island chain, as well as Mexico. We have recently been partnering with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Environment Fund, and they're starting a new sea turtle initiative. They're doing a turtle conservation program on the leeward and south coast of St. Vincent in an effort to increase awareness and to conserve their turtles and to collect some data about what is going on. So I went down for a week and had an amazing time. I mean, when I say they're all our turtles, sea turtles are migratory. So while we will protect them in Barbados, we will coddle them, we will do our best while they're in our waters, we cannot protect them when they leave our shores. So one of the things that is critically important is to have a CARICOM level and a regional level sea turtle conservation policy, because unless we're able to protect them throughout their entire range, we are not going to be able to protect the species in general and essentially give it what it needs. Hawksbill turtles in particular are critically endangered. We're looking at a loss of about 90% of the population within the last 100 years. They are maybe not hanging on by a thread, but they're kind of clinging by the tips of their flippers, you could say. So whatever is necessary in terms of regional capacity building and partnering with others in the region, we are always extremely keen. So in addition to the training in Vincent we've done this year, we also had persons from Jamaica and from Antigua come down last year as well to be trained and to go back and to work with their own sea turtle conservation initiatives. We at University of the West Indies, the Barbados Sea Turtle Project, is also in charge of the regional marine turtle tagging program. So we supply tags to over 34 sea turtle projects within the region. And what that does is that it helps us to get an idea of population numbers, to collect data on individuals and behavior, to identify threats. This data helps us to inspire, to share information with others. So in general, the population in Barbados has increased significantly. We were down to almost nothing. When Barbados in 1998 recognized the problems with sea turtles and passed the moratorium on harvest, we were essentially on the brink of losing our turtles altogether. During that time, around in the early 1990s, we were recording perhaps about 50 nesting females for the entire island. Right now, after 30 years of conservation, the Barbados Sea Turtle Project has been working for over 3 decades to conserve the species. We now average, I would say, 600 nesting females plus. I would like to add a little bit of a caveat, however. In the past few years, we have been recognizing a small decline, and it is perhaps not limited to Barbados. So we are beginning to think that there may be some issues affecting our nesting females and perhaps hatchling survival as well. It is a bit unfortunate that the recognition of this decline has coincided with COVID-19, because we had certain issues on our patrols and our ability to collect data. But we believe that the next 3 years is going to be crucial in determining whether our population is experiencing a decline and whether we need to take urgent action to determine what the problems are, what those threats are, and to put mitigative measures in place to ensure that we do not undo the decades of amazing work the project, its volunteers, and the public of Barbados have done.
What would some of those, or what are some of those measures likely to be?
Okay, so it all depends on which life stage is primarily being affected. If it's adult nesting turtles, then we will need to start a regional campaign, because we have some countries in the region that still have open seasons on sea turtles. So while in Barbados we're celebrating World Sea Turtle Day, while we have this amazing group of volunteers, we have a 24-hour hotline that we get over 2,000 unique calls to every single year, and we're bending over backwards. We have the support of all of the government agencies and the ministries, as well as international partners who fund these operations. While we're doing all of this, when our females leave and they journey through the waters of the Caribbean, they are not safe. Okay. So there are islands that have open seasons, 7-month open seasons, and they will harvest turtles. And some of the turtles that they harvest will be our precious nesting females. So we really need to have a targeted campaign, just educating people on the importance of sea turtles, on the necessary conservation actions, and trying to get everybody on board. So I think that would probably be step number 1. And then, of course, safeguarding our beaches and so on would be number 2.
Okay, if I can throw to Anna before we leave, what is going to be the thing you're looking forward to most tonight when you go out to try to save some of those hatchlings and those eggs?
I think that the first thing is to save lives, how serious it is sound. Turtles and other animals lived here before us, and then human appeared, and now we could not make them disappear. We should serve them and save them to our children. We could not provide our children planet without any kind of species. We should make everything to protect their home, because we human came to their home. It's not only our home.
Yes,
so I think share it was the first idea, and I'm still on it.
Okay, so we want to thank volunteers like Anna, who's here on the Barbados Welcome Stamp, and she's taking her time to labor with Carla and all of her other volunteer team to be a part of it. I wish you all a happy World Turtle Day, but I know this is something which the UWI Barbados Sea Turtle Project does every single day of the week. So I'm wishing you well, Carla, as you go out tonight, and I hope that those people will hear in terms of the furniture and so on, so that we can get this nesting on and grow the turtle population. Ladies, have a wonderful morning and be safe tonight.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, it's World Turtle Day, so go on out and do your part. I don't keep sea turtles, I have land turtles, but they're awesome little creatures. So it's been great having you this morning to watch our program and all that's going to be on offer. You know, we have Agrofest coming up and a whole lot more. So go on out and make it a marvelous Monday. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Wendy Bird.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.